The truth about George Washington. From the truth behind the cherry tree myth to the shocking story of his infamous dentures, these incredible facts about George Washington will forever change your perception of America's foremost founding father. Every American is aware that George Washington was the first president, and many have likely heard that he could not tell a lie. They've heard of a cherry tree and, more than likely, his battlefield prowess. Many people are unaware that Washington was a slave owner, and not a particularly repentant one. These George Washington facts provide an incredible inside look at the good, bad, and ugly truths about the founding father. There are many interesting facts about George Washington out there, but some of them are centuries-old myths. One of the most popular myths involves George Washington and a cherry tree. A young George Washington is accused of damaging one of his father's cherry trees in this story. When he was apprehended, he immediately admitted what he had done, saying, "I'm not going to lie. I did cut it with my hatchet." According to the story, his father told young George that telling the truth is worth more than 1,000 trees. It's a nice story, but it almost certainly never happened. After Washington died in 1799, the American people were eager to learn more about their country's first president. Mason Locke Weems, a bookseller, decided to take advantage of their curiosity. Weems declared a few months after Washington's death, millions of people are eager to learn more about him. My strategy. I provide a detailed history of his life. I then demonstrate how his unrivaled rise and elevation were due to his great virtues. As a result, he published The Life of Washington, but not until a few editions later did he include the cherry tree myth. Another popular myth about George Washington's teeth is that they were made of wood. The truth about Washington's dentures, on the other hand, is far from amusing. In reality, Washington did have dental issues. He had only one of his own teeth left by the time he was in his 50s. But Washington's teeth were not made of wood. They were, in fact, a mix of animal bones and human teeth. Washington was occasionally able to salvage one of his own teeth for use in his dentures. But he frequently turned to his slaves. Washington did pay his slaves for his teeth, but not much, and far less than dentists advertised in newspapers at the time. Although myths about America's first president have persisted, the truth about George Washington is fascinating in and of itself. To begin with, Washington is still the highest-ranking military official in the United States. His formal title is General of the Armies. This puts him ahead of even 4- and 5-star generals. He is also the most formidable opponent the British have ever faced. In a poll in 2012, Brits ranked Washington as their greatest enemy commander, beating out Napoleon. Despite this, Washington only won 6 of the 16 battles he fought in during the Revolutionary War, with the rest either lost or declared a draw. What are the best George Washington fun facts? From his portraits, he may be remembered as the dar-faced founding father, but he definitely had a sense of humor. He enjoyed giving his dogs amusing names, such as Madame Moose. In a brilliant display of irony, Washington named one of his dogs Cornwallis after a British general he defeated in battle. Although there are many interesting facts about George Washington, it is impossible to discuss his life without mentioning his role as a slave owner. When Washington first inherited slaves, he was only 11 years old. In his will, Washington's father left him 10 slaves. Washington then continued to buy and sell slaves. When he married Martha, she brought with her 84 slaves. George Washington is frequently praised for freeing his slaves after his death. The truth, however, is far more complicated. Washington did free his slaves in his will, but he specifically stated that they would not be freed until Martha died. Martha eventually freed them about a year later, but not out of kindness. Abigail Adams, the wife of Washington's vice president and successor, John Adams, made the following observation: Martha did not feel safe in their hands, many of whom would tell her that it was in their best interests to get rid of her. As a result, she was advised to set them all free at the end of the year. In other words, Martha was concerned that her late husband's slaves would attempt to murder her, knowing that her death would result in their freedom. Washington also only freed slaves belonging to him. He made no mention of the enslaved people Martha had brought to Mount Vernon when they married. In fact, those people remained in servitude. They were divided among Martha Washington's grandchildren after her death. Such facts about George Washington demonstrate that there is more to the famous founding father than meets the eye, for better or worse. I hope you found this information about our first president interesting. Let us know what you think and stay tuned for our next video from Fun Facts Galore.